Welcome to the Reconnection Club podcast, the show that helps parents heal troubled relationships with their adult sons and daughters. I'm your host, psychotherapist Tina Gilbertson. Each week, I'll offer you compassion, clarity, and personal development tips designed to help you reconnect, not only with your child, but with yourself. Now let's get started. Many rejected parents write to me and ask, why do I think the estranged adult child is right and the parent is wrong? These hurting parents view my approach in a nutshell as indulging the child at the parent's expense. I can easily understand the emotional basis for this view. There's a real sense of things being unfair here if the child's point of view is considered somehow more important than the parent's point of view. And that is because the approach I recommend is unfair. To me, both points of view are equally valid. But the approach I promote is not a fair, two-sided, even-handed, mediation-style approach. It's not like couples counseling. Because in my experience, and based on what we know from research about why adult children become estranged from parents, an even-handed approach doesn't address the issues as effectively as when parents do most of the heavy lifting themselves. The whole point of my online school and support hub for parents at ReconnectionClub.com is for parents to be able to create mutually satisfying connections with their adult children whose actions indicate that they don't want connection. You can't do this if you're obsessed with not indulging poor behavior. How do you repair a relationship that apparently only one person wants to repair? Not everything can be fair in the process of trying to do that. Your estranged adult child must be indulged in a sense because what is the alternative? But to me, the whole concept of indulging an estranged person, as opposed to simply considering their point of view, is problematic. Because the concept of indulging is inherently disrespectful. Think about the kinds of people who must be indulged. For me, what comes to mind is either a weak-minded elderly relative whose behavior is sort of embarrassing, or an imperious, spoiled child who will instantly throw a public tantrum if they don't get exactly what they want from their parents. Neither of these images is very flattering to your child. So rather than indulgence, I encourage you to think about approaching your estranged adult child with respect. Respect that all people deserve, including you, including them. Obviously, when one person wants connection and the other person doesn't, that's not an even-Steven situation where each can be expected to bring something to the table. The child has removed himself from the table. There is no commitment to mutual effort. The negative mindset about indulging estranged adult children misses the point of why it's necessary for hopeful parents to listen to their children, try to understand them, and show respect in all of their dealings with them, even when none of that is currently reflected back. Effective parents do these things not because the child is perfect and good and right, and the parents are flawed and bad and wrong. Parents commit to hearing, understanding, and respecting their adult children's points of view because respect heals relationships. As the senior adult in your relationship with your child, you can choose to bring respect to the table without waiting for your child to do the same. You can choose to try to understand her instead of wishing she would understand you. You can choose to validate your child's point of view instead of expecting him to validate yours. When people feel understood, respected, and validated, they feel better, and they can act better. You do these things for your estranged adult child, not because someone childish must be indulged, but because the love you give brings love into your life. So I'd like you to seriously consider giving up on this notion that you don't want to indulge your child's estrangement behaviors. It's past the time for you to teach her how to behave by refusing to indulge behavior that you disapprove of. She's not looking for that kind of guidance and not necessarily even open to it. Even thinking about whether to indulge her is a losing way of thinking about it. Once again, the minute you label your child's feelings and behavior as something that must be either indulged or resisted, you have ceased to respect your child. Especially when the alternative is continued estrangement, respect is a legitimate response to a conflicting point of view. You don't have to allow your boundaries to be trampled in order to show your child respect. You can simply offer validation. That's a shortcut that can be used to show respect if you can't think of another way to do it. You might want to look up the word validation if you're not sure what it means, because it definitely does not mean agreeing or accepting blame for anything. It's important to understand how to validate someone if you're interested in improving any relationship. So I'll put a link to one of my articles in the show notes at reconnectionclub.com/78. But please remove the idea of indulgence from your mind if you can, and instead think about being proactive in healing your relationship. Bring to the table what's needed to make good, solid repairs. Your child's feelings and behaviors are what will clue you in to what's needed. If all you're doing is indulging someone whose behavior you don't understand and don't respect, then those parents I mentioned in the beginning are right. There's something wrong with that picture. But if you can get past this partisan concept of indulgence in approaching your child, then you've cleared the way to making real progress in your relationship. Until next time, remember that you are a loving, lovable, and still growing human being. So please take good care of yourself. Bye for now. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Reconnection Club podcast, I invite you to check out reconnectionclub.com. The Reconnection Club is for parents at any stage of estrangement from their adult, child, or children. So whether you've just realized there's trouble between you, you've been living with estrangement for years, or you're newly reconciled but still walking on eggshells, the Reconnection Club is your essential resource for information, support, and continued personal growth. With our courses and workshops, expert interviews, monthly Q&A calls, and a friendly, active community, the Reconnection Club is a wonderful place to be for anyone suffering the pain of estrangement from an adult, child, or children. So check it out at reconnectionclub.com.